Well, that means it's time now to get a quick check on the weather with Nebraska Extension ag climatologist and Market Journal chief meteorologist Eric Hunt. Eric, we have had some relatively mild spring weather here, at least in the capital city. How are soil temperatures looking across the state as producers gear up for planting season?
Thanks, Alex. It's been a warm and interesting week here in the capital city. Speaking of those soil temperatures, they are quite mild across the entire state, and we even have pockets of soil temperatures in the low 50s, south central Nebraska and southeastern Nebraska, and here south of Ainsworth. In terms of the week ahead, we are expecting a cold front to be moving through the state on Saturday. Sunday will be a bit chillier across most of the state with highs in the 40s to the low to mid 50s. We will be having some breezy north winds, and areas that have not had much precipitation in the last week to 2 weeks or even beyond that are at a higher risk of fire danger, so please be careful. The first half of next week, though, looks really nice. Ample sunshine, temperatures in the 60s, potentially even low 70s in some spots. But as we head toward the later portion next week, though, we are going to be looking at a storm system moving into the western U.S., and there is a chance there will be an area of low pressure developing on the lee of the Rockies, moving into our region. Now, the timing of this is still a little bit uncertain, and the actual impacts are still a bit uncertain. But I would say there is a really good chance we are going to cool off significantly by later next week, and we also are going to have chances for rain and some snow. And particularly right now, it looks like central and northeastern Nebraska are possibly in the line for some pretty significant snowfall. So again, that's a ways out, but don't put that snowblower away if you live in the central and eastern portion of the state, because you might need it next weekend. CPC is showing a pretty good chance of precipitation across pretty much the entire country as we head into the last week of March, with a pretty good chance of some cooler temperatures as we head into the last week of the month as well. So we are probably entering a more stormy and cooler period, which would be good for recharging some of the soil moisture that we need in the state. In terms of precipitation, again, tremendous precipitation in west central Nebraska late last week, where we actually had almost 15 to 20 inches of snow in some parts of Lincoln County. Better precipitation fell Wednesday night and Thursday morning here across parts of south central and southeastern Nebraska. Of course, some of this was last Thursday, Friday as well. But again, this is very welcome precipitation since a lot of the state has not had much meaningful moisture in the last, say, month and a half. And that lack of meaningful precipitation has led to some degradation here across parts of northeastern Nebraska, where we have gone into abnormal dryness. Now, it's not quite drought yet, but it is a warning. We need to start getting some precipitation here north of Norfolk and up toward Concord, or we're going to start seeing some things go downhill pretty quickly. We did see a little bit of improvement here across parts of southwestern Nebraska with that precipitation, so that's good news. In terms of those precipitation deficits in absolute terms, we have seen going back to mid-January. Now, again, we had a lot of snow first part of January, but since then, the eastern portion of the state has been pretty dry, and we are seeing deficits approaching 2 inches in that time period going back to mid-January. Better precipitation here out in the western portion of the state, where we were a little bit drier early in the winter, so that's good news. Soil moisture, again, mostly in the near normal range for this time of year. This is a lot better than last year, but we still need moisture, particularly in this part of the state, to really recharge our profile. We had a relatively warm February, actually a very warm February. It was the second warmest February statewide, and for portions of eastern Nebraska, it was the warmest February on record, as it was for a lot of the Midwest. The record warm winter, though, or near record warm winter across the country, though, has not necessarily deterred there being some decent snowfall across some parts of the southern and central Rockies. So the good news is we actually are seeing snow water equivalent values right around there, a little bit above the median for the last 30 years. Thanks, and back to you, Alex.